do. Hello, everyone, and welcome to MIRLive. I'm just going to turn the music off. MIRLive Online Edition Part 2 with me, your host, Kaylee Cassidy. Very excited to be here in the weird vortex that is presenting to all of you guys out there who I can't actually hear back, but it's okay because I'm going to feel your energy. So this is the second time we've done this event. The last one was really fun, and well, it is cold outside right now, but how about we warm you up a little bit with some amazing new writing, all on the theme of joy, which I think is really important right now as we're coming out of the second lockdown and going into the holiday season. Let's all listen to some work which is around about the topic of joy. So the night will be in two halves. We've got 6 acts in the first half, then there'll be a little break, and then we have 5 more acts in the second half, and our headline act also, which is also very exciting. Even though we can't hear you, please do keep the magic alive of live performance by clapping in your own homes. I'll also be clapping myself, but yeah, you can still do it even though we can't see or hear you. And we do encourage you to connect with us online through YouTube or through Facebook or however, Twitter. We'll have some people being able to look at that, although I'm not very technological, so I won't be able to read anything out, but we will be engaging with that. So it'd be good to hear words of encouragement online. What else do I have to tell you? Such an amazing lineup, really high quality of words from everybody. And it's just packed of just fresh new voices who are all saying something so different. All the pieces are incredibly diverse, and it's amazing to be able to present that to you here from the comfort of all of our homes. Yes, I am wearing a fancy jumper, but I'm still wearing my pajama bottoms, which is the joy of online presenting, I must say. I guess since you asked, joy for me is magpies. 1 for joy, 2 for joy, 3 for joy, you know, joy, joy, joy. So that's it really. You don't need me to yabber on anymore. Let's just get down to it and begin the night with our wonderful writers. So first up, we have Carol Farrelly reading a piece called The Knack of the Carnival. Carol Farrelly is currently working on a novel and short story collection. Her novel was shortlisted for the Lucy Cavendish Fiction Prize. Her stories have been widely published in journals, broadcast on Radio 4, and shortlisted for the Society of Authors Tom Gallen Award and the Bridport Prize. She's a previous Jerwood Arvin mentee and a Scottish Book Trust new writer. She spent 1 dreamy year in Italy and loves all things Venetian. Wonderful, Carol. Well, Carol, take it away. Do begin your piece, and let's all put our hands together for Carol.
Thank you so much, and thank you for inviting me tonight. I'm really thrilled to read, especially on this theme of joy. The Knack of Carnival. Carnival is how it feels to Jess, a new percussive pulse. Butter and sugar caramel the air, Mardi Gras. She steps off the pavement and the crowd accept her, a movement sleek and hardwired. Pride, they call it, but she wants to call it carnival. Flags sway above the people's heads and shoulders rise and fall amongst the rainbows. 2 orange balloons drift above the crowd and float higher than the roofs, higher than the blue clock of St. Martin in the Fields. The sun dazzles. She looks down. A dark-haired girl, 20 maybe, walks in front of her. A bracelet slips down the girl's arms as she points at the balloons. Look, flying peaches, the girl says to a friend who slip-slops alongside her in sandals. If they hit that spire, they'll drench us in the sweetest pulp. The friend, or girlfriend maybe, rolls her eyes, but Jess smiles. Someone else feels it is carnival too. She squints skywards again and imagines peach rain falling. She pictures the dark-haired girl leaning into her friend, saying she told her so, while everyone else here shrugs, smiles, and scatters into groups or pairs to take their satisfactions home. Nobody else here is alone, Jess thinks. She'll be the only one to leave her satisfactions behind today, a tourist to this place. Anyone who gives her the quickest glance, she's sure can tell. She has joined this parade and she has followed, but that doesn't make belonging. All her classmates would stare if they saw her now. Anyone who knows her would stare right now. Jess Hughes, they would say, so straight in every sense. She should be with them now, trailing around the Victoria and Albert, her mind a buffering wheel as the guide rattles on, pointing out another detail that they should find fascinating if they would just stand there for a moment, focus, discover the lost art of immersion. She shouldn't be here in this easy crowd, imagining giant peaches, the stuff of children's books, raining juice from a clock blue sky. Her mobile vibrates. A message flares across her orange screen. Olivia must finally have disentangled herself from her latest boyfriend and noticed Jess is missing. Where are you? Clayton will go Raj when he finds out. Apoplectic, Jess thinks to reply. She smiles at the imagined scene. Mr. Clayton counts heads once, twice, 3 times before his swearing rips through every room in the museum and silences every rattling guide. But he hasn't noticed yet. She shoves her mobile back into her bag without answer and pulls out her bottle of Coke. She looks again for the girl in the sleeveless black top. Her face is in profile now, as though she's just turned away. Jess drinks and wonders what would happen if she said hello. The crowd turn a corner. They're snaking down one of the widest roads she's ever walked. Coke drips onto her white t-shirt as she reads the street signs. Whitehall. She gulps again. She glimpses glass and railings and uniformed men and a painted door and a sparrow on a lamppost which is lit at this hour of day. She wonders how it would feel to stand on that strange barricaded street. The sky would be a muted old-fashioned blue. Sparrows would fly, plentiful as pollen, and sing in 3/4 time. And the lampposts would always be lit for safety's sake. It's the world her mum would like to make of their house, and the world her village tries to reclaim, her Scottish conservation village, famous because a Nazi once parachuted down onto the moor by night. It's everything she wants to leave behind. She presses the Coke to her cheek, but the bottle is lukewarm. A couple stop and kiss. Jess blushes as she sees their bodies sway and want more. She walks onwards. To kiss in daylight, she thinks, amidst carnival, oblivious to glass or railing or unnecessary lamplight. It's the most beautiful thing she's ever seen, to trust the earth beneath your feet as you kiss. She's never learnt the knack. Her mobile vibrates again. She doesn't look. On your own? Someone asks. Jess turns. The dark-haired girl stands before her, one hand hooked slack inside the pocket of her friend or girlfriend's red dress. She holds out her other hand and smiles. Hi, I'm Helen. One wall of Helen's living room is books from ceiling to floor, every shelf vertical and horizontal with pages. Jess wonders if she has a sugar-dappled copy of Dahl's story pressed somewhere between dictionary and textbook. A fridge opens in the room next door, a cork pops. Jess shifts on the sofa and looks at the oval mirror above the fireplace, large enough to hold two faces close. There are no such mirrors in her own house. Only a handful of small mirrors are permitted to brush hair or pluck an eyebrow. Fragments only, never her mother's whole face or her own. The clock clicks 11, the door opens. Jess's mobile vibrates again. 25 missed calls now. Helen enters the room holding 2 glasses of red wine. Again, you're popular. Helen gestures to the mobile. Boyfriend? Jess shrugs and switches the mobile to silent. Helen sits down next to her, leans in and whispers. Or girlfriend, maybe. Jess blushes. It's the possibility that brings the blood keen to her skin, the permission. Helen thinks Jess might fit on that carousing street. She might be a girl who has or wants a girlfriend. 2 women might sit side by side and admit attraction, test it as gold between their teeth. Not sure. A wing of Helen's hair touches Jess's cheek. She shrugs again. Helen leans back, and Jess wishes she knew how to reach out and touch that near sweep of hair. It should be so simple. To touch in a room that is only theirs, not even to kiss, not even in open air. And she knows that to reach would be to leave behind all those small mirrors, or to glitter ball them and make them whole. We visited the War Museum yesterday, she announces. Did you? Helen looks quizzical. Yes, I'm on a school trip. Helen's landline squeals into life, but she doesn't move. She waits. I'm only 17, Jess continues. Helen half smiles. So, a whole year younger than me. The doorbell rings. Probably Mr. Clayton. They've tracked her by Bluetooth or GPS. Jess carries on talking. She's telling her truths now, but she's not sure they're the right ones. We came to see the wreckage of a Nazi plane. Is that right? The doorbell rings again. The police officer, or the red-faced Mr. Clayton, holds the sound longer this time. We're studying Nazi Germany at school. It's part of our local history, you see. Rudolf Hess parachuted down onto a moor by our village. On a peace mission, they say. Jess remembers the torn fuselage from the museum yesterday, the black cross on white, and the silence it brought upon them. A silence that was the opposite of reverence. She stared into the gape of the wreck and the web of wires clinging to the insides. All she could think was how she wanted to rip out every wire. Isn't it fucked up, she says, a group of teenagers travelling all this way to see a burnt-out Nazi plane. I mean, people used to go on pilgrimages to see saints' remains, at least, to be in awe. Now we visit Nazi wreckage to see what hate and fear teach us. The bell shrieks again. Helen reaches for Jess's hand. Maybe we want to see it close up, shredded and burnt, the end. Maybe it gives us hope. Jess looks down at her hand in Helen's. A fist thumps the front door. Helen leans in. Tell me why you're here. I just told you. No, here, with me. Why did you invite me? Helen leans closer. Say it. I came, the door lock clicks. To find a life that's beautiful. Helen narrows her eyes and leans back. The front door opens. Helen's friend from the parade, Anna, stands there draped around a small blonde girl. Sorry, thought I'd lost my key, she laughs. But you could have bloody answered. Helen shakes her head. Anna looks at them both and rustles a brown paper bag. Here. She plucks 2 tangerines from the bag and lobs them towards Helen, who catches them. Far more delicious than peaches. Anna grins and slides her arm around the other girl's waist. And none of this daft floating, earthbound, resilient. Anna and the girl turn and stumble down the hall. Helen drops the tangerine into Jess's lap. So have you? Have I what? Seen a life that's beautiful. Jess picks up the tangerine and pitches it into the air. It loops and falls back towards them, the smallest orange parachute, and lands in Jess's hands. She turns to Helen, smiles, and leans forwards.
Thank you, Carol. Can you hear me? Yeah. Thank you so much, Carol. That was very beautiful.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thanks.
So we're going to move on now to our next act. It's Maryam Awaisu reading Giddy with Certainty and in brackets, I Am Diamond. Maryam Awaisu is the author of Burning Bright, which was shortlisted for the NLNG Literature Prize in 2016. Miss Joanna's Rules shortlisted for the African Writers Prize 2018, and The Thing About Compromise. A staunch feminist, she is an activist and advocate for gender equality, prevention of sickle cell anemia, and social justice. She is co-founder of the finding it difficult to say, Arewa Me Too movement, or hashtag Arewa Me Too movement, which gained traction globally since February 2019 for speaking up about sexual abuse in the northern Nigeria by men in power. She hopes to be a storyteller, voiceover artist, and actor. So let our storyteller come to us now. Please, Maryam Awaisu, let's give her a round of applause and let's hear your story. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. So, like she said, my name is Maryam. I think she's basically said it all. There isn't much to say. So I'm just gonna dive into my work. The piece I want to share today is titled Giddy with Certainty. I am diamond. I am brittle. I am tough, forged under the most extreme conditions. I shine. I am beautiful. To understand me, there are no dimensions. I am wild. I burn brightly. So why waste your time trying to cage me into a box that defines how I live as a human, how I behave as a woman? Me, I am diamond. Have you decided who you are and who you are not? What you deserve and what you do not? What you can compromise on and what you will not? You see, who I am came not from the heart or brain. It's deeper than any organ bearing a name. They call me child of anger because of my youth and passion. Happy to hear that, because those I do not ration. They call me bitter feminist because they can't stand how I make the ladies see that no one was born special based on their sex organs. Spiteful words and reductive rhetoric ricochet off my hard exterior, leaving not even a scratch. I wear rings, more rings than anklets. Henna on my face, and on my fingers, I apply lipstick. Over my body, I have autonomy, and I am aware of my sexuality. Always, I am a little too much, a little too strong, a little too loud, a little too expressive, a little too aggressive, a little too ambitious, too bold. Well, let me tell you, not a Seville cell lives in me. Decide and define who you are today. Do it deliberately, unapologetically, and passionately. I know I am diamond. Ask me again. I am diamond. So who are you? Thank you.
Thank you, Maryam. That was so powerful. And we should all be unapologetic. It's wonderful. Thank you. And you've got a woohoo from people in the chat as well. Okay, so next up we have Shelley Hastings reading An A to Z. Shelley Hastings is a writer and dramaturg. Her writing has been published by Southword magazine, This Is Tomorrow and Unbound. In 2020, her stories have been shortlisted for the Gally Beggar Short Story Prize, the Writers and Artists Award, the Alpine Fellowship, and the TU Dublin Short Story Prize. In January, she completed an MA with a distinction, congratulations, in creative and live writing from Goldsmiths University London. She's currently completing her first short story collection, which explores sexual awakening, female friendship, and rave culture. Previously, she worked for over 15 years as artistic associate and senior producer at Battersea Arts Centre. So you can check out Shelley Hastings' website at www.shelleyhastings.co.uk. So please, let's put our hands together for Shelley.
Thank you. Thanks, Kaylee, and thanks for inviting me to read on this joyful evening. My story is called An A to Z of What Wendy Harrison Was Made Of, 1981 to 1992. A. Aniseed balls, gift, bribe from Becky, her dad's girlfriend. Smooth marble sound as they roll together. Final crunch, left with tiny black seed. Shocked. It could be poison. She might be 8, but she's no idiot. Wipes off tongue and onto school tights. Oh, sorry. I don't know what happened. I don't know how much people heard. Shall I start?
Shelley, I'd start from the start, Shelley. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Just start again. No worries. You just dropped off there.
Okay, no worries. Okay, An A to Z of What Wendy Harrison Was Made Of, 1981 to 1992. A. Aniseed balls, gift, bribe from Becky, her dad's girlfriend. Smooth marble sound as they roll together. Final crunch, left with tiny black seed. It could be poison. She might be 8, but she's no idiot. Wipes off tongue and onto school tights. B. Butter biscuits, park with little Mark. Him blathering away, grass yellow from the sun. Doing handstands next to the paddling pool. Listening to the roar of the crowd. Babies. Points toes to the sky, chin up, hold it, wait for the scores, curtsies. Mark's cry like a siren, his chubby arms reaching up for her wailing. Her dad at the shop. Come on, she thinks, is no one going to help this boy out? Do I look like I'm related? Brother only by half. Hulk him out the pool, stuff the biscuits in his mouth to stop him crying. Pulp dribbles down his chin. C. Chocolate, dairy milk, on way home from dad's work. Chicken pox, so no school, no bus because infectious. The taxi driver stares at her sores, disgusted. She nods solemnly. Yes, her final journey. Dad tells him not to worry. It's scabbing over, so not catching. Other children outside. She holds fingers up to glass in weak wave, feels chocolate go squashy. So hot. Maybe this is it. She lets it melt in her hand and stain the seat. D Paolo restaurant. Grandad takes him for a weekend in holidays. Give Dad a break, he says. Becky problems. Menu longer than her arm. Spaghetti al tonno. In preparation, been shopping at the almost new for 11th birthday. Wears purple satin dress with puff sleeves, pumps. Her hair goes static, but she wets it down in the toilets. Mark wears clip-on tie that he dips in his sauce. She can't stop staring at Granny Ann's silver shoes under the table. The way she looks at her, sad, puffy eyes. E, eggs, chips and cheese. Chips from the chipper on the way back from the laundrette. She holds up the warm vinegary paper bag like the royal supper. Dad carries the black sacks of freshly dried clothes. Mark follows, his disgusting blankie hanging from his mouth. At home, she lays out the best forks, yellow plastic handles, chunks of cheese, fried egg, nice and crispy on the sides, the chips in the yolk. Her dad licks his fingers, making it seem oh so posh and delicious. F, frazzles, gets her life-saving badge, saves a brick in her pajamas, the terry toweling billows. Becky late to pick her up again. She walks her usual route in the foyer. Chlorine cupboard, reception desk, vending machine, cardboard cutout of man in red shorts. At each landmark, a frazzle were awarded. 5 laps and Becky will turn up. Okay then, 9, 12. G, ginger beer, alcoholic, St Andrew's Park, drinks whole can, shares the other with friend Faye, sits uncomfortably with school mints. The meat had looked grey. She lies flat out on the grass. Leon runs up from the playground. Oh, Leon, here I am, hiding in the grass. Save me. Had he been calling her? She burps quietly. His brown legs were something else. He sprays fart spray all over her, the chemical poo smell mixed with her puke in the bushes. At home, she washes her jacket in the sink. Dad said she smells like she's been rolling in shit. H, Hackett's Bakery, white bloomers and crusty rolls. Her first weekend job. Likes, stripy blue apron, cute little hat. Tries it on at home and gets Mark to be a customer. That jolly baker, Mr. Hackett, with his big old baker belly, sat out the back with the television on. First day, she puts her thumb through a stale roll. Hackett says, sell it. Life lesson, she thinks. Always look for the holes. Ice lollies from blackcurrant squash. Sunbathing on the top of the garden shed with her friend Maggie. New Primark bikinis. The tarmac roof hot on their backs. Becky was drying herself with the bathroom window open. Her naked body, wild pubes. They laugh so hard the purple icy water drips down their legs. J, juice with bits, orange. Becky says, make it last all week. Don't drink from the carton. Also, water it down because it's expensive and it's bad for your teeth. K, Kendall mint cake. Marching against Hinkley Power Station with Dad and Becky. Make banners the night before. Stop this nuclear madness. Practices getting interviewed. 15 and on the telly. Turnout low. She drags behind. Loses adults and Mart in the marshes. Can't find a way back. The thick, minty sugar sticks to her teeth. She sits, looking at the boggy grass, then up at the milky white sky. Thinks about Mum. Cries. Gets cold. Hours later, helicopters circle. L, lemon and honey. Lucozade, Marmite on toast, just 17 and strawberry bonbons. After Hinkley trauma, off school for 2 weeks. Loved it. Tried for 3. M, melted cheese on tuna panini, sixth form college, bus home. She wants to dance, but studying business instead. Huge crush on Anthony, half French. He sits in front of her. She puts away her panini, zips down her fleece. She might have a brace, but she's perky now, 16. I'm into dance, she tells him. Dad says I'm a natural. Un naturel. He looks out the window. N, nut roast at Christmas. No more meat in the house. Mart is militant. He won't wear leather shoes. Becky, so proud. Leaflets with rabbits with metal spikes in their eyes are all over the living room. His voice is breaking, sounds like he's going insane. Oh, oat cakes and dried apricots, new snack regime for Mark, bad skin, he stinks, neck full of acne, hides in room drawing comics, doesn't talk. Becky says, hormones, no meat is good, but he's mostly eating chips. P, prawn cocktail with Grandad in Blackpool, his 80th. Granny Ann throws party, her feet in squashy slippers. She brings small glass bowls that look like they should have ice cream in them, but wet, slippery prawns. Mark won't eat it. When Granny Ann is in the loo, Grandad scoops them up with his napkin and tells Mark to hide it in his pocket. Q, quavers, Space Raiders, snacks for munchies. Learn to roll joint. College nearly done. Kyla, new friend with cool hair, lives in flat from council, 10th floor. Go to hers most days, eat a lot of crisps. She seems to know people, DJs, raves, get nose pierced, then belly button, agony, go septic. R, rice, chicken and peas, after clubbing. High kicks, spinning, Kyla and fit friend Charlie raise eyebrows. She feels set free, alive. Charlie spins on his head. Cool guy. Get food on way home. Charlie slick with sweat from dancing. They kiss. Later, on balcony of Kyla's flat, watch sun come up. So stoned. Start to tell them about mum, but stop. S, Sambuca shots. Kyla's birthday. Long party weekend. Kyla sick, then sad. Jealous of Dad and Becky. She has shit family. Stayed over at hers, put her to bed. Made us a fry up in the morning. The bacon. Told her no meat at home. Then about mum. Both cried, drunk sweet tea. Tea, tomato soup, living for weekends. Dad brings soup tray, sits on end of bed, late afternoon, worried she smells of weed. Gives her lecture about exams. Knows she is having fun, all fine, but could she just calm it down? Get up on weekends before lunch even? You. Uncle Jeff drafted in to buy her pint for big talk at Coach and Horses. Tells her about his acid days, the casualties, the parties, starts drumming the table, gets carried away, buys more pints, starts reminiscing about some clapped out bus he used to live on before he got married and worked for the council. V, vegetarian Scotch eggs, Mark's big idea, teenage entrepreneur, the kitchen full of sacks of peanuts, the shitty sulphur smell creeps into her bedroom, desperate to move. Becky helps Mark fry them and put them on the back of his bike so he can sell them down Gloucester Road. W, wine, pink, sparkling, and a box of chocolates. Gift from Becky. Finished exams. Get full-time job. Donut City in town. Hate uniform. Stars and Stripes apron, puffy hat, spod shoes, but need to save up. Move out, travel, SeaWorld, Paris, New York, Los Angeles. X, chewing gum kiss. Dad helps her move things to Kyla's, box room and low rent. Charlie's there waiting. Lie on new bed and kiss, share gum, happy. Mark cycles over with tray of Scotch eggs, a dozen. For your dinner, he says. Just freeze them then. They hug. Why? Yogurt, natural. Becky's advice, good for thrush. She drops it round with condoms, then asks if on pill. Agony. Z, Zetland Road pizza, extra large meat feast, payday, salami, onions, black olives, double cheese, the crust thin and crispy, clear, warm night. Sits on balcony with Charlie. Listens to ska music coming up from the neighbour below. Eats, rolls joint, looks at stars. Thanks. Hopefully that was it. Thanks, Kaylee. I hope that worked in the end.
It worked perfectly.
Yes.
Great. Thank you, Shelley. Yeah, well, it was so rich of detail and very funny, and it made me do an A to Z. Think about doing an A to Z of my life. It would probably involve WKD at some point. Yeah, so thank you, Shelley. And let's introduce our next reader, Devin Welch. He's reading an afternoon poem, and it's over here. Devin Welch is a fiction writer from Denver, Colorado. He's been featured in Storgy magazine, Little Somethings Press, Ogma magazine, and is currently developing a debut series with Golden Liberty Comics while chasing an MFA at the University of London, Birkbeck. So let's put our hands together and welcome Devin Welch.
Thanks, Kaylee. All right, let's jump right into it. An afternoon poem. Crumbling jaundiced huts diminished behind us until they were forgotten. She towed me by the fingertips. Without destination, it was important that we got there promptly. Near the short willow in the plain with initials carved into it, then scratched out, we laid. Her legs crossed over mine, and in the tall grass we couldn't see each other. Quietly, we reached around for each other's hands. The sky was a sort of blue that gave thirst, and lint white clouds moseyed in from the coast. Our arms swung and made wings around us, flattening the long blades, and when our fingers finally brushed, the sky swiftly became night. Stars peppered like flecked paint. The tree leaves were gone, but it was still warm in the evening, and we saw the night's pattern shine through its bare branches. There were horses and warriors, one-wheeled chariots and godheads behind them. There were fishermen fighting destinal catches and illicit fruits ripe for the picking, all above, all on absolute display. And they moved. Each told us a story of prodigious adventure or lost love. She gripped my fingers tightly, and I knew that she saw it too. Not a word came between us, there was no need. For if something wrong was said, the smell of cake would disappear. We knew that eventually would have to, as nights do. A wound crossed the moonscape, a Pegasus trail, leaving a red gash that would scar poorly in time. Time we didn't have to watch heal. The orbs in the sky pulsed to their own meter, like children beating high drums under their arms. When my eyes opened, daylight had returned. I sat up. She was already there, leaning back on her palms, looking up towards the tree where the leaves had returned, letting bits of light through that brindled us. The clouds in the blue sky had made it near. They formed shapes that were intimate and familiar. There were soldiers and broncos, broken axle chariots and deities whipping behind them. There were fishermen and fruits. I looked at her, but she was caught in the stories that never truly ended. And I didn't blame her. There was no surprise in her eyes, just a hint of sadness. And under them, her spotted cheeks reminded me of something like flecked paint.
Thank you. Thank you, Devin. That was so beautiful. I don't think I'll ever look at the sky the same again. It was so alive, with lots of different ways of describing it, and very beautiful. Thank you. It's also really interesting to see people's backgrounds. Shelley had in the picture, girls are powerful. That was quite cute. And yeah, I don't really have anything. I should have put something up there, just like for jokes. Okay, so let's move on to our next reader. We've got Barbara Bleiman reading Habit. Barbara Bleiman works for the English and Media Centre as a consultant on secondary English teaching. She is co-editor of E-Magazine, a quarterly magazine for an A-level English students. She has written 2 novels, Off the Voortrekker Road and Accidents of Love, and has had several short stories published in anthologies, including Mechanics Institute Review. She did an MA in creative writing at Birkbeck, and her most recent work, Kremlinology of Kisses, is a collection of short stories published by Blue Door Press at the end of October 2020. There's an online launch happening for that on the 7th of December, so you can check that out if you fancy it at www.barbarableiman.com. So without further ado, let's put our hands together for Barbara.
Hi, thank you very much for inviting me to talk. I'm going to be reading from Kremlinology of Kisses, and it's an abbreviated version of Habit. The first time she wore the outfit to go out was on a Saturday night. The manager of the coffee shop where she worked had arranged the rota in her favour, so that she had the whole of Friday and Saturday off. His way of thanking her, perhaps, paying her back. On Friday evening, he came round to her flat straight after closing up and stayed for an hour before going to collect his eldest daughter from her ballet class. On the Saturday morning, she dressed up in the outfit and ate her breakfast wearing it. Not only the veil, but also the coat. She didn't bother with the tights and shoes, remaining in her fluffy pink slippers instead. She washed the dishes in her outfit, did the ironing and cleaned the kitchen. At one point she put on Radio 2, then switched it off again. It didn't seem right. In the quiet that followed, she found herself humming gently, a repetitive little tune that seemed to go much better with mopping the kitchen floor in a gabardine coat and veil. She got the idea from Ida, a film she'd seen about a Jewish woman living in Poland during the Second World War, who decided to become a nun. She'd gone to see it with the manager on an evening when his wife was busy. She wondered what had attracted him to this particular film, the woman's name in the title perhaps, or the image on the poster. It was a surprising choice. He was restless in the cinema, paying more attention to her than to the screen, stroking her hand, touching her thigh. She, on the other hand, was transfixed. The woman in the film, a novitiate, had a lovely face that drew you in and filled the screen with light, mesmeric and unfathomable. She left the convent for a time and went into town. Wherever she went, people trusted her. Had they known that she was Jewish, their eyes would have narrowed with suspicion, but with her novice's headdress on, she was treated with respect. They asked her to bless their children, gave her somewhere to sleep for the night, apologised for any small act of impoliteness, intended or not. When the film was over, the manager had offered to take her home. Though she would really rather not have done so, she allowed him to come up to her flat, where she let him, standing in the front hall, without any preliminaries or niceties, pull down her pants and push himself inside her. He had done it once or twice before, and now it was hard to say no. It was over quickly, and he left straight away, not even waiting for a cigarette or a coffee. After that evening, she took to wearing a nun's veil, not at work, of course, and not every day, just every now and then, when the fancy took her, when she'd decided she'd had enough of the usual routine of waitressing, the local authority gym, the manager. She made the veil herself, buying the dark serge material at a haberdashery, looking online for images to guide her in its construction. In the end, she chose something simple that she thought would frame her face rather well. Looking in the mirror, she was satisfied with the result. Her features took on a purity and clarity that were lost when her hair tumbled around her face in its usual unruliness. Seeing herself in the mirror, she already felt different, somehow calmer, more in or under control. She bought a coat for herself at a charity shop, a grey gabardine with a belt, shapeless, slightly longer than it need be, but a decent enough fit. If she cinched it in the waist tightly, it became something else, accentuating her hourglass figure. It had those kinds of possibilities, but for now she let it hang loose and limp around her body. For a few weeks, all she did was try on the clothes in her room. She experimented with poses, kneeling at the end of her bed, her hands brought together in the shape of prayer, sitting at her table, clasping a book in both hands, crossing herself in front of the mirror. She tried out faces in front of the mirror, humble, faithful, penitent, beatific. Beatific? What was that like? Her life hadn't prepared her for that look. But a small smile appeared to do the trick, eyes looking straight ahead steadily, and a light smile playing on her lips. On the Saturday evening, she was supposed to be going out with Carla, the girl at work who was trained to make the coffee. They'd agreed to go out for a meal and to a club, but Carla called to say she had decided to stay in instead. She didn't fancy a night out. Now she had nothing fixed, nothing to do. She put on her nun's veil and her gabardine coat and sat for some time, looking at herself in the mirror. And then she took her purse and keys, slipped them into the deep pocket of her coat and went out, shutting the door of her room behind her. She stepped softly down the stairs and out of the main door into the busy street below. In the street she hesitated. Where should she go? There was a church just round the corner, but why would she want to go there? All around her was the usual bustle of the high street, teenagers clustered round the tube station, shrieking and flapping like noisy geese. Sister! Oi, sister! It took her a while to realise that someone was shouting at her. A cup of tea for you, if you want it, on the house. It was the man from the tea van. She'd had a run-in with him once when he refused to acknowledge that she'd given him a £10 note instead of a £5. Thank you, she said, and took the foam cup from him. Blessings on you, he said. She muttered something indistinct under her breath and walked away. At the traffic light, she stepped across while it was still green, a moment of inattention rather than her usual deliberate hurry. A white car with tinted windows speeding towards her screeched to a halt and stopped. As she passed in front of the car, the front window was lowered. A young man leaned out, his arm jutting out of the window, his diamond earring flashing at her. Watch out, he shouted. You'll get yourself killed if you're not careful. And then as she raised her eyes towards his and held them there in a steady gaze, there was a more flustered, sorry, miss, madam, you mind yourself, lady, take care. She nodded silently, and before she knew it, she had made the sign of the cross at him. He smiled sheepishly and gave her an awkward, childlike wave before driving on. Bless you, she thought. Over the next few weeks, she started going out like this more often. When Carla suggested getting tickets for a gig or meeting up for a drink, she declined. She was too busy, she said. As time went on, she began to expand her repertoire, adding extra, more interesting routines. Riffling through her jewellery drawer, she found a cheap necklace. With a bit of alteration, it would make a good set of rosary beads. She took to washing her face with water and cheap soap, and on her nights as a nun, she wiped off all her makeup and went out exposed and bare. She even considered abandoning her razor and allowing her armpits and legs to grow thick with hair. This was a temptation that she held out for herself as a possible future pleasure, not one that she was able to give in to now. At work, everything was as it ever was. She wore her usual short black skirt, her white shirt that was a bit too tight over her breasts, and her earrings that jangled when she shook out her thick hair before tying it up again as the rules required. Men still asked for her number, and the manager still pressed himself up against her when he thought Carla, Roberto, and the new Polish girl weren't looking. But once home, she had a shower and changed into her nun's clothes straight away, and spent the evenings in solitary contemplation. One morning, the manager caught her on her own in the storeroom. He pressed her up against the shelves, stacked high with bags of coffee and filters, and kissed her. He said he'd like to stay over that night. His wife and daughters were away unexpectedly, visiting relatives. He would switch the rota so that she was no longer on duty for the afternoon and early evening shift. She could go home early and get herself ready, he said. She could see the nervous excitement in his face, the anticipation. She nodded calmly. When Carla questioned her, she shrugged. He lets me have time off, but I pay for it in my own way. Carla stroked a finger lightly down her arm. I thought so, she said. No point in being silly about it, though. You need the job. She nodded. In the afternoon, she sat at the kitchen table in her jeans and sloppy top, fingering her rosary and leafing through her book of prayers, unable to settle to anything. By early evening, she felt calm, though, lost in her own quiet thoughts, the world beyond banished. She roused herself and began to get ready. When the doorbell rang, she picked up the entry phone and buzzed him up. Opening the door to him, she felt nothing, no anticipation, no pleasure, no regret, no anxiety, no fear. She looked at him, a light smile playing on her lips, her eyes holding steady, fixing his gaze. A beatific stare. What she saw did nothing to dispel her calm. The look of shock on his face, the confusion, the stuttering, the stumbling apology, the sweaty uncertainty, the sudden realization of who or what he was looking at, the hasty backward step toward the stairwell. Joy. But then, all at once, he seemed to hesitate. He held his head to one side and then to the other. He frowned slightly. He laughed a little. He stepped towards her again. Sexy, he said, kissing her full on the lips. Really sexy, pure, innocent, virginal, he said. I like it, he said. I want to see what's hiding underneath that grey coat. I'd like to rip it off, along with that thing you've got on your head. He came in and spent the night with her. The next morning, after he'd left, she took the veil and threw it in the outside bin. She found a large plastic bag and put the gabardine coat and the string of beads and the prayer book inside. The charity shop was still closed. She left the bag outside and walked on towards her work, her high heels clicking as she went, her short skirt snagging on her tights, her earrings jangling as she shook out her hair. Thank you.
Thank you, Barbara. That was a very tender and quirky story, and I felt like the ending was very stomach-turning with the man. But yeah, thank you so much for reading your story and sharing it. So we've got one more act now in the first half, and then we'll have a 5-minute break. But yeah, I'm super excited to welcome Alice-Louise MacGillivray reading her piece called Joy. Alice has lived and worked with an invisible disability for 20 years. Her writing draws on this experience alongside with humour. She is currently studying an MA in creative writing at Birkbeck, and she loves horses, dogs, lols, and I thought that said librarians then. Confession. Confession of Alice.
I do like a librarian, I'll be honest.
So do I. So I was like, yeah, I like lols and librarians. Libations. Thank you, Alice. And Alice says she hopes we enjoy her work. And Alice, we did enjoy your work, and we will. So without further ado, it's Alice.
Okay. Hi, I wrote this poem about my evolving interpretation of joy, having had a lot of trauma and loss and bad habits. So it's very much about my journey finding joy. Joy in a pill, joy on the bottle, laughing, socially marching with others worse than you. Joy is caffeine, chocolate, Chardonnay and Coke, sweating out, expanding swimming pool pores of bloat on your nose in spite of joy, losing control in the oxygen of others, oxytocin, estrogen, your body bleeding no more. Joy is flicking relentlessly through porn. £60 plus vibrator on credit makes my wrist bones sore. Slickly slick, saturating my cotton fresh sheets, all in the hope to at last let go. And then, sleeping blindly to every troubled thought you once had. And then, again and again and again, till one day arising, did last night's knowing make you happy? No, my friend, no, not at all. A fresh start, a fresh search for joy. Cats and dogs and puppy dogs' tails abundantly weaving around your feet. Tails all a-weaving light things in your dream state hung overhead. No rats' tails though. No, never rats. You know they must go. Tall tales. Tales to be told. Tales that unfold. Tales that take root in the depths of your soul. Please tell me, what makes up your heart? Your joy? Joy is feeling each one of your fingers, each one of your toes. Touchy, touchy, feely, feely. Others exist. Spongy softness in your warped, sad, fucked up soul. So, joy is shy of the bottle. So, joy is shy of things up your nose. Joy is failing, breathing still, seeing things not seen yesterday, looking straight dead ahead, laughing in that one magpie's fate. Death knocks at everyone's door. Joy is hearing the crap fall from your body, thud smack in the bottom of your bowl after days and days and days of trying. Joy is all things bright and beautiful, compassion, letting go of fear, of stiff, staunch hate. Joy is feeling the wetness of tears roll freely down my face, hearing my breath, appreciating I live. Thank you.
Thank you, Alice. That was such a extremely vivid journey through joy. Thanks so much for sharing it. And you get a bonus point for mentioning magpies.
Oh, thank you. I thought you'd like that. I was thinking of you. I thought, oh, well, I definitely impressed Hayley already.
I have a tattoo of a magpie. One for joy.
Yeah.
Thank you. Wonderful. Okay, so with that, we're now going to have a 5-minute break. So yeah, do come back when we have 6 more acts. And yeah, let's just all do a clap for all of the people who have read so far. It's been such an amazing evening. I'm having so much fun listening to everyone's words around the theme of joy. And yeah, so please go to the bathroom, have a drink, and come back in 5 minutes when we will be having the second half. So bye, and I'll put my theatre back. Yeah, and I'll put some music on so you can enjoy that. There we go. Oh no, the tag is broken.
Shine for you, and each note will ring clear and true. Can't you see? If only it was up to me. Shine for you, and each note I sing will be clear and true. Can't you see? If only it was up to me.
Hello, ears of Britain. Have you noticed Christmas starts earlier every year? It starts in chicken roll time. So at Pizza Hut Delivery, we thought.
Okay, so welcome back to part 2. Let's move the little theatre away. Took me a couple of hours to make that. Yeah, I sat here like a little 5-year-old making art projects. It was very fun. Since you guys asked. Yeah, so here we are back. I hope you had a good break. I got myself some water because I'm a champion. Yeah, and I was playing some music off my Spotify, and then at the end I got rumbled because I don't pay. Well, I mean, you can have free, but then you have to listen to adverts. So sorry, you had to listen to some adverts there. But anyway, let's get on with this because I'm just so excited to hear more people reading. It's so soothing, and it's just something I definitely miss about lockdown, is going to see live performance and listening to new work and meeting people, you know, like chatting afterwards. What's really great about what's come out of this is that we are connecting with people throughout the UK, and people can attend these events that aren't in the UK, so family can hear you reading and hear voices. So that's great, the collaboration that's come out of it. But I definitely do miss live music and live poetry readings and stuff. But this is just wonderful that we can keep this going. So I do just want to say a big thank you to Peter for doing that, because he he really puts all the effort in backstage, and he needs a big round of applause for Peter. There we go, at Mir website and live. Okay, so first act of the second half, we've got Rachel Genn, who's reading a piece called Silk. Rachel Genn is a senior lecturer at Manchester Writing School, formerly a neuroscientist. Wow, she's written 2 novels, The Cure and What Could You Have Won? She was Leather Hume's artist in residence in 2016 at the University of Sheffield, creating the National Faculty for the Regulation of Regret, which is all in capital letters, Rachel. So I wasn't sure whether I should be shouting it. But yeah, spanning installation art, VR, interactive and film. She has written for Granta, 3am, Lit Hub and Hotel, and is currently working on Immersive Experiences, a collection of non-fiction blessed about fighting an addiction to regret, and essays on the neuroscience and poetry of creative reverie. That's hurdling in brackets. So fantastic, Rachel. Let's put our hands together and welcome Rachel.
Hello. I'm going to be reading from my current novel, What You Could Have Won. I'm reading a section which is, the whole book is about a psychiatrist who uses his current girlfriend as a drug experiment. She's a singer and she's gone on tour. It's a very well-received tour, but still she's waiting for him. This is a section from the book where she has decided to take a drug that he's given her when she left New York. She's decided to take it, and it's just kicking in as she's giving her last concert at Burning Man. She's right on the edge of the stage, and she pulls her elasticated crotch further into a squat blue glitter cone. And when she lets go this time, it spatters first and puffs back. The elastic shivers back to her cunt. Do it again, just to watch it happen. A guitarist twangs, it feels the right thing. They shout what could be warnings, but just as correctly, they could be hopes and wishes. She looks back out at them as much as to say, did you see that? Dance for them. Dance again. That's what they want. The sun's going down on these people. The elastic can't stop it. And these people, who are a lot more people than she can see, are telling her to come here. Over here, they say. No one tells her not to go. She can leave the stage. Lucian says no, but she knows her body can, and she is going. She walks out into them, on top of them, and she stands on their hands and their heads, and faces if their heads are back. Behold, they say with their necks, throats like snake bellies joined to make a path. Her steps are working like they do when she walks up the wall, and she moves forward and she don't go down. She escapes above them. Her heels are solid, cupped in palms, and she peels the jumpsuit from her body. She's bare to the waist and she leans forward because that's what they've been trying to tell her. This must be the sea because she has to be at the prow of their boat. Don't confuse her, some of them say with their arms. Put her to the floor and let her run through a trench of them in the dust. And they do this and they part and she gets it. She gets it. She's got it. That without them she can sprint fast and clean in bare feet, and she imagines the arms of that jumpsuit fill up with air and hinge stiff behind her. The sea is red and she's down with it. The heat makes her stay down there, and she heads down there with the heads and shoulders that are on the rolling boil, and she suddenly is a stone in their soup. She clings to calves, heavy, get her up. Her blue sleeves dangle, her chest is bare. She's no longer moving forward very fast. She's not cooler up here above them. Her legs are apart and they have her tight round the ankles. And she stands making a firm triangle of noise. The noise never flares up past her knees. It shoots towards the mountains from her crotch like a pussy laser. Is that where she left him? No one is telling her what to do, and she needs nothing. She looks down to see how some of them have only grown so far. That is so neat. Lucian is here with them, shouting, waving what he wants her to do. And she can hear him above the words that are coming up from the crowd, and she's walking on. But she turns on him because what there is to care about is not here in Black Rock, and the names that remain choke under these feet and the inescapable dust. She steps on some faces that say they are laughing, and faces that say they are upset, and faces that say they are surprised. A shoulder disappears as she steps on it, feel Jesus, and she drops down, and a man with a face that says, I'm sick, catches her and pushes her back on top of heads with his hand hooked under her crotch, his thumb in her ass, but for the elastic. He fully wipes his hand on her leg as she thinks, whoever this is happening to should be mad, but without despair or encouragement, she becomes free to go and go. It's obvious. With any processes coming, going, and she sees hope or despair, but she doesn't know what to do with them, and so it doesn't matter. She's never been free before, and that makes this the place. It could not be anywhere else, and she could not be with anyone else, you guys. You guys make the floor come up under her feet, and you walk with her, and you touch her, and you pull down her outfit, and she steps out of it, and you lift her again, and she sees a 3-story head between her and the mountains, and below it, black ribs, and far through them, the terracotta mountain gone grey. 2 hands hold and squeeze her tits, and there are whispers that there are fires. You've arrived. You part to show her one fire is dead orange, flat, the kind of orange forever. Nothing holding her, she doesn't laugh, but she could do if that someone reminded her of how that is different from singing and talking. You shout to her over a low, glowing mound. It's obvious that she must get to them. Her face gets touched, and 2 hands hold her neck, and her feet leave the floor. This is what she does. She hangs in your hands. About her, all this freedom. A face rubs round the scarf and breathes through it into her hair. An animal's face comes through. It's breaking hers, and it won't be mended. Animal faces are easy, she tells everyone who can hear and see her. And she walks in through the orange, and it's all suddenly fall and give up. And suddenly she falls and gives up. Flames finally tell her again what it was she wanted. Flames are good at telling her what she wants. That's easy. She can do that. She's not even in and you stop her. Someone comes through and pulls her up and out horribly. In a Tin Man's funnel hat, she sees that silk burns quickly in the desert. And now I wish my heart was still in it, because I'm on fire and the smell of my hair dashes from mountain to mountain. Don't fucking pull me out. People pat my head with planky hands. I get it as they pull me out, but I can't smoke. That's me. I'm not to own. Cold or hot, we won't do either. Regret and relief are once again the names of paint colours. My scarf stays in and burns for me. My hair crisps away to red dust, and I watch it clapped off in a stranger's hands. People scream, but they don't know what's happening. It's a hairpiece. I feel my crotch is hot and still wet when I'm out of the fucking words. I said words. I meant fire. Thank you.
Thank you, Rachel. That was so evocative and so direct, and I love the way you read it. Thank you for sharing it. The next reader we have is Iqbal Hussain reading her so-called life. And I think, Rachel, you just turn your video camera off. There we go. Maybe that worked. I think it's just the video, Rachel. Stop video. Oh, no, no worries. I can't hear you now because it's on mute, but I can see. Oh, well, I'll just, I think it's fine. We can see your lovely face while I'm reading it.
It says that my video is off now.
Ah, yes. There we go.
Is it?
Yeah. Thank you, Rachel. Okay, so Iqbal was born into a large working class Pakistani family in Lancashire. Having studied mathematics at a small Welsh university far removed from the cobbled streets of his childhood, he chose to earn a living with words. He worked as a journalist for many years for publications ranging from The Guardian's education supplement to The Young Telegraph. He lives in Chingford and is currently working on his first novel, Northern Boy, a coming-of-age novel set in the early 1980s about what it feels like to be a butterfly among the bricks. Wow. Okay, so Iqbal, we're really excited to hear your work. So please, let's put our hands together. We'll call Iqbal.
Thank you very much. So my story is called Her So-Called Life, and it's based on my mum and our experiences of growing up in this large household up north in the early 1980s. I was 14 years old when my parents sold me into slavery. This is how Mother described the day she married our father. The first time I remember her mentioning it was in the kitchen when I was about 10 years old. She had tossed the statement over her shoulder while furiously brilloing her way through a tower of pans. Father tried challenging her, but she pinned him with a severe expression, her kameez rimmed with white where she'd leant into the edge of the chapati flowered counter. With her wedding ring as good as a pair of shackles, it was no wonder then that it was usually to be found abandoned on the kitchen sill, a golden nugget among the cobwebs, fairy washing up liquid and turmeric-stained marigolds. From a small smoke-filled kitchen lit by a bare 40-watt bulb, Mother fed a family of 6 with a home-cooked curry every day. She must have made thousands of chapatis in her lifetime, bringing flour and water to life in a plastic bowl that had long lost its scarlet colour, rolling them out as round and regular as though churned out on an assembly line. In her mango-coloured salwar kameez, jade green dupatta and jewelled sandals, Mother was a peacock amongst the formica, no longer noticing the lopsided units and peeling linoleum floor or the overflowing elephant chapati flour bag serving as a bin. She was content in her little kingdom. For all her claims of enslavement, my mother was never more at home than when in the kitchen. She was wedded to her aluminium pans, the aromatic contents of which she scraped around and mixed with a large metal spoon. These jarring sounds made me jolt and jerk like Frankenstein's monster, but Mother used them as backing for her soaring Indian melodies, which she sang in a thin, faraway voice. Even when the cooking was done, Mother remained in the kitchen, her fortress. We would find her at the window, her eyes travelling beyond the concrete yards and the smoking chimneys, peeling back the years. She was in her little village once more. She was with her friends, reclaiming the teenage years that had been denied her when my father had married her and spirited her away. Dear Anjum, Zubeda, Parveen, Shabnam, Fawzia, and sweet little Najma. She'd reeled the names off like a list of exotic flowers. I can see them in the courtyard under the orange tree, picking through the rice, laughing, talking, teasing Najma. Oh, my darling Najma, where did those years go? She would collapse against the worktop as though the string holding her upright had snapped, shrinking in size, hugging herself in her Aztec-patterned cardigan and looking mournfully at her sandaled, glittery-socked feet. Oof, this cold, bitter, bitter cold, she'd moan, shivering. As always, the front hob was on like the eternal flame, and Mother was virtually on top of it. 1,000 pities your father brought me here. Why he could not choose somewhere warm. As if on command, rain thrummed on the little window and a gust whistled in through the ill-fitting sashes, making the net curtain dance as though it was alive. Ya Allah, this country has made me old. I do not want to end my days here. Like pieces on a chessboard, we tracked around the room, trying to distract her. I told her a knock-knock joke, asking the questions myself and laughing uproariously at the punchline. Kalsoon showed off a new trick on her yo-yo. Nargis complimented her on the embroidery of her salwar kameez, which she had stitched on her beloved Faf, but it was no use. While mother was bodily with us, her spirit had soared over the oceans. She was 13 once more. My father was yet to cast a shadow in the adobe rooms of her childhood. The smoke from the dried cowpats burning in the fire filled the yard. Mother basked once more in a place where the evening sun cast a honeyed haze, where crickets chirped and oxen lowed. Nargis would be moved to give mother a hug. We'd all join in, encircling her as though she was a storm-damaged tree in need of support. Mother remained totally still, her domed earrings sparkling in the flickering light of the hob. She would start singing in her little girl voice, a song from the film Bobby, a favourite of mother's with its tale of thwarted love. No one can come in from the outside, no one can go out from the inside. We lay our heads on her, letting her know we were there, even if she was someplace else. We'd feel her chest rise and fall, the hiss of the hob providing a gentle percussion to the sad melody. I'd play imaginary piano keys on the small of her back. She'd absent-mindedly stroke our hair, teasing it up as though she had never encountered hair before. After another verse, mother would gently uncouple our arms and leave the kitchen. She'd float away, head to one side, still singing, a mermaid heading for the horizon, heading for home. You and I, locked inside a room, and the key is lost. She would slowly ascend the stairs. Like the train of a wedding dress, the song would drift down, its ghostly refrain becoming fainter and fainter until the bedroom door shut and we heard no more. We would not see mother for the rest of the evening. The next day, she would be back in the kitchen, no word being said about the previous evening. Preparing breakfast as we got ready to go to school, she dealt endless rounds of buttered sunblest onto the griddle, frying up enough toast to feed the whole street. She would nibble away delicately at the corner of a cold slice, humming a song from one of her beloved Bollywood films. While she moved around the kitchen, raising phantasms in the increasing smoke, we scurried around her, getting ready. Without a bathroom in the house, we flattened our hair at the sink in the kitchen, washing faces, cleaning teeth, jostling each other for prime position. Shoes clomped up and down the wooden stairs, retrieving forgotten books and bags. Father would send in Tahir to ask if mother had ironed his uniform for the mill where he worked. We would troop in and out, entreating mother to sew on a button, or to do up a tie, or to sort out 100 other little things. The kitchen door creaked and banged open and shut almost without a break. As we finally gathered ourselves and our belongings, paying last-minute visits to the toilet in the yard, we lined up one by one to kiss mother goodbye. Despite the heat of the kitchen, her cheek felt cool. She bent down so that we could reach her. The smell of toasted butter and cardamom and cloves, of Tibet face cream, Himalaya hair oil, and Avon moonwind talcum powder. She drew the four of us in close, holding us tight. I counted the seconds in my head. 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, 3 Mississippi. Mother spoke. I was 14 years old, but look what I have now. I'm the wealthiest woman in the world. With a kiss on each of our heads, she released us. Turning round, she breathed out slowly through her nose. Thank you.
Thank you, Iqbal. That was so tender and moving and a real portrait of a mother. So thank you so much for sharing. Next up, we have Emma Henderson reading a piece called The Joy of Cooking. Emma Henderson is a lecturer in creative writing at Keele University. She has worked as a blurbs writer for Penguin Books, as an English teacher, and as the manager of a B&B in the French Alps. Nice. In 2006, she gained a distinction in the MA in creative writing at Birkbeck. Her first novel, Grace Williams Says It Loud, published in 2010, was shortlisted for the Orange Prize for Fiction. Her second, The Valentine House, published in 2017, was shortlisted for the Historical Writers Association Gold Crown Award, and she's currently working on her third novel, Two Good Men. So let's put our hands together for Emma.
Thank you very much. Yeah, there's no preamble. I'm just going to start straight in reading my short story, The Joy of Cooking. Can you hear me? Hope so.
Yeah,
Okay.
we can hear you, Emma.
Okay. Right. Whenever there's a crisis, the women in my family cook. A health crisis in the family, that is. I'm not talking about the tsunami in Florida, or the genocide in Scotland, or the famine on the Isle of Wight. Just common or garden family matters of birth, illness, and death. Thus, we had appendicitis flapjack, my cousin Mary, banana bread broken leg, me, lung cancer linguine, Auntie Joan, heart attack hummus, Grandma Phyllis, miscarriage pine nut and pistachio salad, Mum, hemorrhoid hash browns, also Mum, and so on. When I'd learnt to read and write, I made my mum a handwritten recipe book with all the best recipes in it. Eczema eggy bread, me, tiramisu earache, my sister, cheesy chip hip replacement, Grandma Phyllis, rheumatism rhubarber and cream, Auntie Joan. So it wasn't surprising when in 2031, I tried by cooking to make things better. I was only 11. We'd had 3 winters of terrible flooding. Crops were ruined, whole villages in Wales were starving. A new strain of the virus was wiping out Bristol, even though the city had been in lockdown for the last 8 months. We Londoners were relying on food drops by drone from the Taoiseach in Dublin. And Mum had a lump in her right breast the size of a marble, plus another in her armpit, bigger than a golf ball, and making it impossible for her to lift and use her arm. The lumps were inoperable, Mum had told us. What does inoperable mean? I asked my sister, who was 3 years older than me and had burst into tears when Mum said that word. It means she'll die, said my sister. She's got metastasis. Metastasis? Spreading. I knew about spreading. I was a COVID kid. That's what they called everyone conceived, born, or just very young when the first wave of COVID hit. We were used to death, and I probably half guessed what the word inoperable meant. But I didn't want my mum to die. This was a crisis. I decided to cook. Men shrank. No one knew why. It began the year I was born. Not overnight, but by Christmas 2020, at the Downing Street press conferences, apparently, Matt Hancock was standing on a wooden block in order to reach the microphone. And by the following summer, when Boris Johnson addressed the nation announcing the failure of the Oxford vaccine, he needed 2 blocks, and even then had to stand on tiptoes. Johnson was assassinated in April 2022, and his coffin, Mum told me, was the size of a baby's crib. Scientists were baffled. They assumed the shrinking was due to the virus, which continued to rage in waves and spikes all over the world, killing thousands, maiming millions. COVID simply spread with no cure, no vaccine, no understanding. There was worldwide political turmoil, civil disobedience, rioting, looting, chaos. Volunteers for one of the UK's early attempts at a vaccine died like rabid dogs, howling and drooling. In 2023, Labour seized power. The following year, Keir Starmer was lynched. One of my earliest memories is of his televised state funeral, the shoebox-sized coffin being placed in the ground by his wife. When Starmer's wife stood up, she towered above the little roly-poly male grave diggers and funeral directors. But she wasn't as tall as the really, truly, startlingly tall, almost ugly, actually beautiful, red-haired woman next to her. Angela Rayner took over the leadership of the country, and we females immediately felt safer, happier, stronger, more hopeful, but mostly just relieved. Gradually, Angie and her team of tall women got things onto more of an even keel, except for men, who continued to shrink. Moreover, and what's important for this story, is they didn't shrink proportionally. They shrank into sausage shapes, penises to be precise. Men became walking, not talking, penises. Nowadays we're used to it, but at first, my sister told me, it was a matter of newsworthy astonishment. How men's balls shriveled and transformed into inch-long spindly legs. How the tip of their penis, the hole which used to be the urethra, became eye and mouth in one. How the loose foreskin around the glands turned into their only real means of self-expression, tightening, contracting, slackening, scowling, smiling, relaxing. Circumcised penises are the equivalent of bald men BC, before COVID. And these penises open and close their eye mouths a lot, making all sorts of different shapes with their little old hole of a urethra, because they don't have the option of expressing their thoughts, feelings, or personality via a foreskin. None of the penises have arms, and although scans show small brains behind the eye mouths, they don't seem to have much intelligence. They drink milk from saucers, bending in the middle to suck, and that appears to suffice to keep them alive. They huddle quietly together in groups on the street, in parks and gardens, or watch sport on television. We use them as toys. My sister said that grown-up women used them as sex toys, but she wouldn't explain what that meant. For making babies, I asked her once, having read something about this in a BC biology textbook. No, you know we don't need them for making babies. Yes, I knew we didn't need them for making babies, and I wondered why we needed them at all. They weren't even frightening anymore. Before all the men shrank to the size and shape of their penis, Angela Rayner organised sperm banks and created a fair and efficient system for impregnating women who wanted to be impregnated. She announced at a Downing Street conference in May 2029 that there was enough sperm stored in sperm banks to repopulate the world a zillion times over. A zillion's not a number, I said. She just means we've more than enough. My sister squeezed the two penises she was playing with, so their eye mouths went tight and thin and long. So we don't need you, do we? Except for fun. She gave the penises a friendly shake and knocked them against each other. They wobbled and flopped until my sister rubbed them enough to make them stay straightish again. These two penises were our brothers. Boy babies continue to be born, but they shrank within days of birth now to the size of a man's penis. No one gave them names. We live in a true matriarchy now, said my sister. This was Easter 2031, and we were watching Angela Rayner open a new rehabilitation centre for COVID sufferers. The doctors and nurses, patients, dignitaries, and journalists were dressed alike in full PPE, and you could tell they were all women, not because of their tits, hips, and calm melodic voices, but simply because of their height. Is that good? I asked. It's too soon to say, said my sister. Less than a month after this, Mum went to bed and stayed in bed. She said she was too tired to look after my sister and me, and we'd have to fend for ourselves. That's when I decided to cook something special, if not to make her better, at least to take my mind off how much worse she was getting. There was butter in the fridge, eggs, flour, and sugar in the larder. I could make a cake, but I wanted whatever I cooked to be truly memorable. And we'd already had varicose vein Victoria sponge, Grandma Phyllis, and chocolate brownie migraine, my sister. We'd even had coronavirus cupcakes, fat Mrs. Harris next door, who went to hospital and was in a coma for months, but then came home and wasn't fat anymore. Perhaps a soup would be a better idea. There were a few onions and some manky old carrots in the vegetable rack. I'd call it lumpy soup. No, not ambitious enough. Breast cancer consommé, 2 cordon bleu. I looked through our stained and greasy Joy of Cooking recipe book Mum had been given as a wedding present. Boeuf bourguignon, coq au vin, lamb with rosemary and mint. The pictures made the food look mouth-watering, but the list of ingredients were dizzyingly long and the instructions complicated. I flicked to the everyday family meals section. Macaroni cheese, spaghetti bolognese, toad in the hole. I already knew how to make that, and I knew it was a favourite of Mum's. Yes, hurrah, and I'd call it metastasis pork pancake. We had everything needed for the batter, but no sausages, so I used penises instead. I was only 11. We ate insects, chucking them into a sizzling hot pan for a noodle stir-fry. We ate fish caught from the river alive in their bucket, sloshed into pans of boiling water. Birds shot and roasted before the natural warmth of their body had waned. So it didn't cross my mind that there was anything odd about using penises to cook with. I made the batter and left it to cool in the fridge. Then I took a rucksack and went to the park. There were always plenty of penises hanging out near the old football stands. I collected a dozen of them, all roughly the same medium size. I could feel them squirming in my rucksack as I walked home, and some of them were making strange squeaky noises. But I ignored them, in the same way I'd seen my sister ignore the sounds the chickens made before she twisted their necks. While the batter began to cook in the oven, I grilled the penises gently until they were cooked through. Then I tipped them into the semi-cooked batter and turned up the oven as high as it would go. The batter rose, the penises crisped and browned, their little legs and their eye mouths disappearing completely. My metastasis pork pancake was a triumph. I made the tea tray pretty for Mum. I grated some carrot and arranged it around the rim of the plate. I added a floury napkin and put a straw in the glass of water. My sister carried the tray upstairs. Mum ate a few mouthfuls of my offering. She smiled and said it was delicious. She just wasn't very hungry. My sister saw my disappointment. She finished Mum's plate and said she'd like seconds. So my sister and I went downstairs and polished off the rest of the dish. It was indeed delicious. Afterwards, I told my sister about using penises instead of sausages. She said it was a good idea and I should write to Angela Rayner about it. Mum died a few days later, but my sister helped me write the letter anyway. That happened 10 years ago. The virus hasn't gone away, and there continue to be catastrophes in the world, like tsunamis and floods and droughts and famines, and zillions of people dying from those, as well as from the virus and all the other BC illnesses. My sister and I still cook whenever there's a crisis in the family, but there are fewer crises, and the family's smaller. I'm rich and quite famous. Angela Rayner saw the economic and health benefits of my penis-based toad in the hole. With their ready availability and ease of production, penises were the simplest of solutions to food shortages and distribution. Penises, it turned out, were chock full of vitamins, protein, and all manner of essential nutrients. No longer redundant and just the playthings of children and idle, frustrated women, penises were given a new lease of life as the mainstay of the matriarchal diet. Recipes for them proliferated. At Christmas nowadays, turkey, goose, and ham are frequently accompanied by delicious variations of my penis-based toad in the hole. I wrote a cookbook patenting and trademarking the original recipe as metastasis pork pancake. But over the years, the dish has become known as Coco COVID, and men, nothing more than a distant, sometimes nostalgic memory. We watch them on screen, in old movies, TV shows, and documentaries, and safely, joyfully, we laugh. Thank you.
Thank you, Emma. There we go. A dystopian story which blends comedy and tragedy perfectly. And yeah, very visceral. Thank you, Emma. Thanks for bringing that story to us. So our next reader is Alice Mason, reading Chicha. Alice Mason is based in Liverpool, UK, and writes short stories about diaspora, immigration, politics, Latin America, and being part of two different and diverse cultures. Alice's creative pieces have been featured in Under the Radar, Bidu Lito, ! State of the Arts, and more. She was also recently longlisted for Penguin's Right Now Programme 2020, and you can find Alice on Twitter, and it's at A11CE Mason and alicemason.co.uk. So let's put our hands together and welcome Alice.
Hi, Katie. Okay, so my poem is Chicha, and here it is. So, Chicha stains your teeth purple, no matter how much it's watered down. Bubblegum flavoured Inca Cola, fluorescent lemon that tinges tongues dark yellow, Nazca lines, past paints animal skeletons of a time before, when they looked up at the sky and hailed the sun, the gods, not like now. Busy markets, dusty streets, tin shack houses, chicken carcasses. This is home, or maybe this is a home away from home. Welcome back. There's a bakery next door, rows of little cakes filled with cream and wet succulent fruits under fluorescent lights. There are wooden stools you can perch on and eat. You hear the neighbors murmuring in Quechua. You don't understand a thing. You never will. They drink Cristal beers, men with gold chains, gold rings, throaty, deep laughs. First dates happen in local juice bars, cheap, nervous, young romantics. Of the Bolivar Hotel, ghosts pass from corridor to corridor. Are they just stories? The ballroom, silent and unused most of the time. They spring into action for parties, balconies in rooms, overlook the busy city. The terrace bar calls your name. You do not answer it. Sometimes when you are away, you swear you hear the same cockerel that woke you up throughout the early mornings, but you wake up. You're not in Peru anymore. These are just glimpses of a country you were not born in. Children with no shoes run across the streets. You sit in a taxi watching the world go by and see the sellers popcorn, Coca-Cola, crisps from their bags or pockets as they weave themselves through the traffic. Sometimes at the traffic lights, there are dancers with hula hoops or magicians or fire-breathing jugglers, and for 20 seconds you are completely entranced. But then the light changes from red to green and the entertainer is there waiting for his money for the performance of a lifetime. You sometimes travel out of the city to beaches and small towns and women washing their hair with tree roots, but the fog and the people draw you back in. The busy restaurants, the menus, the piping hot meals. Your heritage is here and from over there. Women in white dresses dance, men with scissors jump up and down, cumbias, salsas, boleros, valses, all play, and families dance all night long. Street dogs peer through the windows, wondering what all the noise is about. When you travel further away to Cusco, the red dusty mountains welcome you from the plain, the green hills. The air is fresher here. So fresh, you need some coca leaves to chew on. The bus winds up and up to Machu Picchu. You see hitchhikers attempting the steps. The roads are tiny, and as you look out, you can't see the edge. This is the first time you've ever been here. When you arrive at the top, you can almost see the old ceremonies that took place, the ghosts of people who lived here, even llamas. Don't feed them, someone says. Only the tourists do that. And all these memories and thoughts come flooding back to me as you take your first sip of chicha when you're back in the city again. Thank you.
Thank you, Alice. That was so vivid and a lovely portrait of home and a home away from home. Thanks for sharing. So here we are at the end of our night with our headliners to come. So let's just go with it, and I'll welcome to the stage Rónán Hession. Rónán Hession is an Irish writer based in Dublin. His debut novel, Leonard and Hungry Paul, was published by Blue Moose Books in the UK and by Melville House Books in the US. His second novel, Panenka, will be published in 2021. Leonard and Hungry Paul has been nominated for a number of prizes, including the Irish Novel of the Year and the British Book Award for Best Debut. Rónán has also been longlisted for the Anne Post Irish Book Awards for Short Story of the Year. As Mumbling Death Row, he has released 3 albums of storytelling songs. Singing and playing too. Cool. His third album, Dictionary Crimes, was nominated for the Choice Music Prize for Irish Album of the Year. So, my dear audience, let's put our hands together for the headliner and welcome Rónán.
Thank you very much, Kaylee, and thank you to all the other artists reading their work tonight. I've really enjoyed it. I remember when I used to play music, and if you'd said I'm headlining, they would say, no, you're just playing last. So I won't get too above myself. So I'm going to read from my second novel, which is out next May, and it's called Panenka. So I'm going to read the first chapter. Chapter 1, Panenka. His name was Joseph, but for years they'd called him Panenka, a name that was his sadness and his story. These past months, the pressure pain in his head had been coming almost every night, building like an Atlantic wave that roiled within his dreams until it broke and crashed through his sleep, shocking him awake. It manifested as a clamp on his face. Working at bone level, it would spread from the crease between his eyebrows, around the orbits of his pounding eyes, and onwards to his jaw, which would stiffen and lock with tension. He called it his iron mask. With the palms of his hands pressed against his cheeks, he would run to the bathroom to compress his face against the cool, hard side of the bath, barely relieving the nerves that had mayday signals pulsing through them. In its own time and on its own terms, the iron mask would eventually lift, allowing the last few ripples of pain to subside and returning Panenka to the unclaimed hours somewhere between late night and early morning. Exhausted, he would haul himself up, his legs all fizzy and useless, and limp back to bed, thinking hungrily about the few hours of sleep that remained. Pulling the duvet up as far as his cheek, which bore no bruises or scars, no evidence of the silent violence, a bubble of thought would pass through his mind. Was this time worse or the same as the last? Was the pain spreading or different? But he had learned to ignore these questions. The iron mask was unknowable in any real sense and beyond any bargaining. As Panenka lay there on his side on one of those shipwrecked mornings he had become so used to, his grandson Arthur pushed open the bedroom door and climbed into the bed. His weight was not substantial enough to roll Panenka out of the hollow on his side of the mattress, and so the child was able to settle himself back to back in a familiar arrangement based on body heat. He had often cited his grandfather's indulgence of these visits as a defense against his mother's objections to them. Living in a house of adults will sharpen any 7-year-old's advocacy skills to a precocious level. On finding her son's bed vacant and ruffled, Marie-Therese called into Panenka's room without looking. "Arthur, 5 more minutes." "On board," said Arthur to the ceiling once his mother had gone downstairs and out of range. He turned to Panenka and woke him with a nudge to the kidneys. "Pop, can I wear a tracksuit today?" "Morning, my friend," replied Panenka without opening his eyes or moving. "Everyone's wearing tracksuits. It makes no sense to force kids to wear uniforms with ties. It's the wrong type of clothes." "Tracksuits are Tuesday and Thursday. But you don't get into trouble if you wear them other days." Arthur leaned up on his elbow and turned Panenka's chin towards him. "Not getting into hassle is not the same as being good," said Panenka. "Do I have to wear a tie then?" "No tie. I agree with you there. I can't think of a single reason for you to wear a tie. It hardly makes sense for adults to wear them." "Mama," roared Arthur, "I'm not wearing a tie. Pop says I'm allowed." "Stop shouting," called Marie-Therese from downstairs amid the sounds of spoons and bowls. "If you want to talk to me, come into the same room that I'm in." "Hit the snooze," said Arthur. Panenka pressed the top of his grandson's head, and they lay back to back for a few more minutes, Arthur falling into the carefree rest of a child, and Panenka sobering himself after the intensity of the past night. He pulled the uniform from the wardrobe in Arthur's room and threw the elastic tie back onto the shelf. Laying it all out on the bed, he closed all but the top 2 buttons of the school shirt, leaving those as practice for Arthur to dress himself, each successful effort getting a star on the chore chart. Panenka gave Arthur a piggyback downstairs to the kitchen, where Marie-Therese was wearing the androgynous trouser suit she had just ironed. The name badge on her lapel had limited space and said, "Trainee Manager, Marie." She had recently taken a promotion at the supermarket where she had worked for several years, going from cashier to a management role that she had been encouraged to apply for. It was a little bit more money, but she lost shift allowances, overtime, and the friendship of the women she had worked with on the registers. and so far, she was struggling to assert herself with the men in the stockroom. There was something subtly undermining in their frigid cooperation, and she could sense their hostility like a draft on her shoulders whenever she swept through to look in on them. But she contained her anxiety and instead projected managerial competence through her perfectionism. She had been taught that retail is detail and was meticulous in her standards, even if she knew that this was a sure way to get called a bitch behind her back. As she sometimes reminded herself, this was all part of getting ahead and taking her life back, even if the small patch of alopecia behind her left ear had begun to worry her. It was easy to hide it now, but if it became any bigger, it would surely expose her lack of confidence, or worse, earn her a nickname. Here you go, Arthur. Make sure you don't get it on your uniform, she said, handing him a bowl of porridge with honey in it. We'll have to go to school early today. I'm due in for the delivery shift. Don't worry about that, said Panenka. I have a later start today. I can drop him off at the gates before I go. He's still waking up, I think. Arthur was sitting on a beanbag, staring at cartoons, his bowl balanced on his soft belly as he slouched. His hand rested on the remote, having nudged up the volume to drown out the adults' chatter behind him. How are you this morning? She asked, kissing her father on the top of his head. I heard you up and about last night. Everything okay? Those migraines, I get it seen to. Feel normal now, like it never happened. Have you had breakfast? I have a banana in the bag. I better run. I need to get in before the delivery is done. I have to check everything off. Can't you get someone else to do it? One of the lads? I could, but if there's a mistake, it comes out of my pocket. See you later. Marie-Therese stooped down to kiss Arthur, who was engrossed in the screen. Be good for Pop now, won't you, buddy? She said. As she pulled away, he caught the back of her neck and hooked her in for a kiss of his own. Arthur preferred dry kisses. Wet ones got wiped off with his sleeve. Panenka sat over his coffee and porridge, half watching the cartoons himself. His cheeks and forehead were clear, no lingering sensations. He had described it as a face migraine to his doctor, who had known him for years, ever since his footballing days had ended. He and the doctor were about the same age, and Panenka was not the first man he had examined who had downplayed his health worries. As their families had grown up, they had often chatted informally during routine checkups, enjoying the type of jokes the men share in private. The doctor was concerned about the headaches, but would say little about the condition, except that migraine shouldn't feel like iron masks, and that Panenka would need a scan. He could wait 9 months or else go private if he could afford it. Panenka had said that there was no big rush and that he didn't mind waiting, embarrassed about declaring his financial situation to an old friend. Tell you what, the doctor said. There's a Dr. Wolf who's doing a series of short residencies at the hospital. He's a consultant neurosurgeon from Portugal who's an expert in middle-aged men with headaches who follow underachieving football teams. So maybe I can see about getting you a session with them. It's a teaching residency, which means there'll be a registrar there. That's a trainee surgeon who's learning from him. That'd be a problem? Is it private or public? Neither. It's sort of off books. It's a teaching consultation. So there's no cost, provided you're comfortable with being part of the training process. To be honest, I'm only telling you about this because we've known each other a long time, and I think it's worth getting this checked out soon. I don't want to worry you, but I think you need to be examined by someone experienced. It might be nothing, but a nothing from Dr. Wolf is worth more than a nothing from me. Deal? He asked. Why not? He had been booked for a preliminary scan the following week, getting an afternoon off work to go on his own. It was all over in time for him to be home for dinner with Marie-Therese and Arthur at the usual hour. He had said nothing to them about the scan or the panic attack that he had had when he was in the MRI scanner, nor about the long chat with the young radiographer about changing his mind, or the submissive resignation when he was delivered into the machine for a second time, feeling utterly powerless and alone. He'd expected that they would print off the scan pictures like at a passport booth and tell him the news one way or the other. But the pictures had to be referred to Dr. Wolf and Dr. Nunez, whoever he was, or as it turned out, whoever she was. It had taken 4 weeks for Dr. Wolf's office to call Panenka for that morning's appointment. Panenka shaped the last few lumps of porridge into a spoonful and finished it. Time's up, Arthur. Brush your teeth before it's too late. We're going in 300 seconds. That's 5 minutes, said Arthur without shifting. He was used to his grandfather's sly way of pushing arithmetic on him. They walked through the part of town Panenka had lived in for many years, an area known as the Crucible, where a mix of strays, seasonal workers, and outsider communities lived, people dependent on the local authorities mostly. Over the years, much of the area had been scheduled for demolition, or urban regeneration as it was called. But there was always a new population of unwanted people that needed to be housed somewhere, anywhere, and the Crucible served a useful purpose as far as the town was concerned. It was a sort of spare room where all the problems were dumped with a view to sorting them out later or forgetting about them altogether. It was where the pavements crumbled, where blown street lamps went the longest without being fixed, where people used sheets as curtains, where grown men lived 4 to a room in bunk beds. For all its flaws, it was cheap and within walking distance of most places. Panenka had always liked the invisibility of living in the Crucible, it being full of people from elsewhere who were too busy with their own precarious lives to notice him. As they walked up to the school, with Panenka shouldering Arthur's bag, which was heavier than he had expected. In it was a Tupperware box, packed with the school bismuth, a futuristic silver grey block from the science table that Arthur had been entrusted with over the weekend as a reward for coming second in a quiz. It had never left his bag. Pop, what's plastic surgery? Asked Arthur, kicking a flattened Coke can into the road while they waited at a pedestrian crossing. It's when people get an operation on their skin to make them look younger. Flattens out their wrinkles. Oh. Why, what did you think it was? I don't know, I thought it was like pretend surgery. Come on, it's Green Man. Mama says that some people are addicted to plastic surgery. Let's not talk crossing the road, my friend. Wait until we get to the other side. Remember, both ways. I'm doing it. Don't be a lighthouse, moving your head from side to side. Come on, pay attention. At the other curb, they joined a shoal of children holding hands with grown-ups, all going in the same direction. Do footballers get plastic surgery? Not when I played. These days they look like pop stars, so maybe that's changed. I was more worried about surgery on my knees or my ankles. Did you ever have an operation? A few times, unfortunately. What was the worst one? Once I broke my leg and then I had to break it again because it didn't set properly. That's disgusting. Arthur grabbed his bag when they reached the school gates, bolted to join a group of boys who were huddled, talking excitedly like Wall Street traders. He had quietly explained to Panenka a few weeks before that goodbye kisses were acceptable at home, but not in public. Even hugs and high fives were being suspended pending a full review. Arthur was comparing heights with a boy that Panenka had seen before at one of the birthday parties. Arthur looked cleaner and newer standing next to him, with hair that was styled and not just short. His shoes didn't have broken laces. His jumper was fitted without looking too small. The other boy looked a little unfinished beside him, not that either of them noticed or cared. It all came from Marie-Therese and her unappreciated attention to the little things. She kept it all in her head, all on top of her new job and 1,001 other things a 28-year-old mother was supposed to fit into her life. The school bell rang and the children ran screaming into their lines as the parents broke off their small talk and dispersed back to their cars, mostly mothers, a few dads, and, least hassled of all, grandparents helping out. At 50, Panenka was a young grandfather and was good at it, that is to say, interested in it. There was a playful inversion involved in a grandfather-grandson relationship. It was child-led. Arthur chose the agenda and set the pace for their conversations, which always led back to him answering his own questions in his own way. He had such an innocent certainty, as though he were not so much figuring things out as recalling lost knowledge from a previous existence. Working methodically, he used yes-no questions to deconstruct the world's inconsistencies and injustices. In all this, Panenka was the sidekick, the who's there in the knock-knock joke, as well as the clown, the tickler, the absurdist, the dumb bunny that Arthur explained things to. Nobody ever goes to counselling about their difficult grandparents. It is love without the stakes. If only Penenka's other relationships had been like that. Perhaps they could have been. But it was too late for that thought. It was needed years ago when he was failing as a father, a husband, a friend, and as a human. Too much of his life had involved making mistakes and bad choices that carved deep grooves into the lives of those around him. Who was he to be wise now? He had always guessed that his failings would have to be accounted for eventually, and that there would be a reckoning. So that was how he saw things. And that was how he saw the abjection of the night and the bathroom floor. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Rónán. Amazing character creation there with Penenka and really heartwarming exploration of relationships. So thanks so much for sharing. And here we are at the end of our night. We've had so many amazing writers this evening. It's been thoroughly enjoyable to listen to everybody. So I'm sure you can all put your hands together and just give everyone a round of applause. We had, I can hear you all. I can hear the rapturous applause from here where I am. Carol, Maryam, Shelley, Devin, Barbara, Alice, Rachel, Iqbal, Emma, Alice, and Rónán. I'll just do it. I'm doing the ghost of all the applauses. And thanks to Peter for organising this. And thank you to me. Can't believe I did that for hosting, because I'm sure normally someone goes, thank you to the host anyway. Yeah, and stay tuned, because we're hopefully going to come back in the new year with another one, with another theme and loads more new writing. But it's really important to engage with MIRLive online, because that's how the world would be spread to more people, and we can get more people involved in this community of very heartwarming readings, because we have a group with all the writers and everyone's encouraging each other and being so supportive, which is really what it's about at this time. So yeah, just stay safe, everybody, and we hope that we've brought some joy to your evening and the rest of your weekend. And